Good evening, one and all, and thank you for being with us here tonight. I'm just going to ask Mr. Lalonde to call the closed meeting at an end. I move that the closed meeting be closed so that we may return to the regular meeting of Town Council, seconded by Councillor Zant. All those in agreement? Yes, fine. Carried then. Let's go on now to what happened at the closed meeting. We gave directives to town administration to follow up with the IT situation that we discussed. Whereas Town Council authorized the hiring of Alain Rochefort to supply support and revise the organizational services for the IT department, and whereas the IT services was overburdened because of the service requests, it resolved that we proceed to organizational changes as described in FIN report -32 and to create a new position entitled Chief Operating Officer of Information Services. Seconded by Councillor Levert. All those in favor? Carried then. Carried. Let's go on now to announcements. Are there any announcements to be proceeded with tonight? Yes. I would like maybe to express myself on behalf of the Council as a whole. Tonight marks the last meeting of two individuals, Councillor Jean-Marc Lalonde and Councillor Christa Simard, two individuals who were extremely devoted to promote the well-being of the community. Mrs. Simard should clone herself because she's taking part in so many activities, and Mr. Lalonde, I believe, is part of more community drives and events than the age that he has. He's an individual that's extremely busy. Not only had we occasion to meet and work with extremely dedicated individuals, but I believe we made two good friends. I'm going to miss them, and I'd like, on behalf of Town Council, to thank you for the 4 extraordinary years that we spent together at Town Council. Without them, things wouldn't have gone as smoothly as they did because of their experience and the well-camouflaged sense of humor that Mrs. Simard has, who had me in stitches on many occasions. I'd like to thank you both for the past 4 years. It was extraordinary. Thank you. On my behalf and on behalf of all people sharing Town Council table with you good folks. Thank you then. Would you like to say something, or at the end of the meeting, at the end of the meeting? Any other announcements? I'd just like to remind folks, all those youngsters in between 6 to 14 years of age, to register to the Spelling Bee prior to the 21st December. So I'm encouraging parents to encourage their children to take part in this event. It's a great experience that teaches people to speak in public and to learn words and to foster their love for the French language and to ensure its survival. Let's go on now to question period. Are there individuals in this room that have any questions of Town Council? No? Well, that's fine then. Let's go on. Let's continue on with the next item on the agenda, the Council members' items. Members' resolution presented by Councillor Michel Levert with regard to ATVs, whereas the United Counties of Prescott and Russell authorizes ATVs using 417 Russell Road until Chemin Drouin, up to Chemin Drouin. Be it resolved that Council mandate Town Administration prepare an amendment to Bylaw 2005-102 as amended for Council's consideration with the intent of allowing ATVs being driven on Chemin Drouin up to Russell Road and on to La Rose Forest. Seconded by Councillor Lalonde, should I say? Any questions? All those in favor? Carried, and thank you. Carried. Let's go on now to consent items. Are there, Mrs. Simard, would you care to read those? Where I would like to, yes, yes. Are there any items that you'd like to withdraw or discuss separately? Yes, Councillor Grimard. Well, I believe that Mrs. Simard had one to remove. 10.2 sub C. Yes, 10.2 sub C should be removed for further consideration. Yes, fine. Mrs. Simard, would you care to read the others? No, you'll come back with the others. Be it resolved. Be it resolved that the following items identified under consent items appearing on the regular meeting of Town Council of the 19th November agenda be adopted. 10.1 adoption of the minutes of the following meetings. A regular meeting of November the 5th, 2018, and B committee of the whole meeting of November the 5th, 2018. 10.2 the following recommendations from committee of the whole of November the 5th, 2018. Sub A resolution to approve the payment of the additional fees of $19,050 to BDO Canada for the CIH Academy audit. Sub B, resolution to authorize the write-off of 23 accounts receivable for a total of $20,955.21. Sub D, resolution to reject the Rockland Field Archers request. And 10.3, resolution to adopt the salaries paid from October the 7th to November 3rd, 2018 in the gross amount of $814,799.36 and net amount of $586,049.40. Seconded by Councillor Lalonde. Any questions then? If we have no questions, then we're proceeding. Of course, we're proceeding by consent. Mrs. Simard, could you please read the following? Also, we'll deal with them separately. All those in favor, then carried. 10.2 sub C. Be it resolved that Council adopt the revised human resources policy appearing in the existing policy. Any questions then? Yes. I had some notes in spite of the update having been erased. We talk about revised items. Cal or Mr. Grimard had talked about social media. There's nothing with regards to this. Again, with regard to report number HR 2018-005. I'm taking a look at all those that we dealt with the last time around, but nothing has been changed. Maybe I'm missing something here. I was surprised that this was going to appear under consent items. I didn't notice any changes that were reflected in this particular document. You alluded to those two matters. We talked about cannabis consumption also and what we're expecting, and I'd ask that we come up with comparables to take a look at what other municipalities are doing. Are we dealing with a fit-for-duty situation, or are there consumption periods or trial periods? Isn't there a separate bylaw with regards to the management of media outlets? Well, there will be a resolution sent to Council that will deal with this. I believe that's preferable, because if we like to deal with too many things under one particular policy, it makes it too difficult to manage. Well, when you mentioned that there are also public events, well, public events, there's the way in which the policy has been formulated doesn't meet with my expectations. I would have liked it to be easier to tackle, too vague and not detailed enough. But if it's too detailed, I'm sorry, but my notes were erased as to that. That stems from the Health and Safety at the Workplace Act. There was an email that was sent today, and more particularly this section that applies with regards to work harassment, section 1.5. If that's the case, ingrained within the law, why do we insert it within our internal mechanism? Because that's where we're redirecting our employees now. In my workplace, that's a problem, you know. I don't have anything that states that we should anticipate, you know. spreading rumors or
There's a couple of them.
feeding the rumor mill.
Refrain from.
Where's the other one? Well, maybe I can propose a solution with regard to this. We could certainly detail it much better in the future, but with regards to harassment, I'm sure there's a clause that would design it. Section 1.5 has this. If this is your intent, well, that's fine. This regard with worth harassment includes all remarks or jokes that might offend someone or to circulate graphic materials that are deemed inappropriate
Most places have that.
through electronic means or otherwise. It includes also intimidation, menacing phone calls. Councillor Guillemard? Well, now or without any contacts. This also covers everything, basically. Materials in print or electronic forms. Bullying, repeated offenses, or intimidating phone calls or emails. I believe that when it's too specific,
I would put that,
I would, yeah.
well, to be as precise as participating in gossip or saying that they participate in gossip, it prevents from consulting the intent of the law as it exists right now. And people are not compelled to consult the law as it stands. It's my opinion, but maybe we might look at something else. But at the same time, it's not drafted the same way. If I rely on that same and the work-related laws and our bylaw, you'd certainly like to talk about the principle of respect. You don't need to go back and say, well, what do they mean by disrespect? If I take the provincial policy as opposed to what we have right now and
rather just talk about being respectful?
I'd like to obtain a wider spread policy. Are you comfortable with this formulation? Yes, I am. Formulation. It being that specific, well, are we going to pass this resolution or not? I think that if you have something with an employee, then you have a broader prospect to bring it with even more detail. Would you be more comfortable with that? Yes, yes. I will be here, but you'll be there. So do you want to get into this? What we can do right now is that we can adopt it at the next town council. You can't. I'd prefer deferring it. Maybe you could then? Yes. Yes, I could assess all options as discussed at the last meeting. The Cannabis Act, for example, I'd like to have a wider description. Some are targeting a 28-day period. The Association of Municipalities of Ontario is preparing something with regard to this, and also preparing a communique with regard to social media. We have nothing on hand right now. I took a look at the document, the electronic version, as well as emails, and there's nothing with regards to this. It would be interesting to add something to social media. There's one in the process of being prepared, is it not? Is there not? Maybe we can prepare something, a different policy for social media. Well, this type of policy was implemented specifically for cases. Others are in the process of being prepared for council. We have a whole bunch of policies that we'll be addressing during the coming new year and we'll be dealing with. So there's a big pile of... okay, so we'll defer this.
Okay, so we defer it.
To the next time. Everybody's in agreement? Fine.
Everybody agree.
Moved and seconded then. That's fine. Are you the one that removed this from the list for further discussion? Councillor Lezant, you wish to remove another item? Yes. Is everybody in agreement then? That's fine.
Okay,
let's go on to item 11, committee and staff reports, accounts paid. Mr. Lalonde, André Lalonde, would you care to read the resolution? Be it resolved that accounts paid for the period ranging from the 14th of October to the 11th of November, the million of $1,505,000 be adopted as recommended. Seconded by Councillor Simard. Any questions?
Question?
Fine. All those in favor? Carried. Just a question at line item 29 concerning the appendix with regard to accounts paid. We procured two $8,000 counters. That's for the daycare services. Let's clear that up. Do we need to assume the responsibility for garbage pickup, or are these counters not needed anymore? Those are, oh, I'm sorry, not counters, but containers for storage purposes. Fine, so we need those. That's fine then. All those in favor? Carried then. All those in favor? Fine, carried then. Let's go on now to item 11.2, grant application for Celebrate Canada Day 2019. Be it resolved that Municipal Council hereby authorizes the Community Services to submit a grant application to Canadian Heritage Celebrate Canada program to help fund the Canada Day celebration activities as part of the 2019 edition of the Ottawa River Festival. Seconded by Councillor Zant. Any questions?
Des questions?
Well, I find that's very worthwhile. More and more individuals now take part in this activity, and there's a growth in interest in participating in those events, especially during those past 2 days. We had 8,000, 13,000 even last year. Fine. Now, if you were to add total costs and divide that by the individuals that took part in events, how much would it come out to? Well, maybe at the next meeting I could come up to with a figure for you. This would be a guide that we might make use of year in and year out. If there's higher growth, more people taking part, that would give us an idea as to how much it would cost per person. What would be acceptable or reasonable to calculate, and you might look at that amount and request for further funds then. Fine. Fine. Are the next year's showcase guests or artists hired? We don't know how much it's going to cost us. Well, we do have a budget. We need to respect the budget that's already in place. It has been approved officiously, but not officially yet. Fine. If you have any problems, you'll come back to council. Thank you then. All those in favor? Carried then. Thank you. Let's go on now to the water looping financing, 11.3. Councillor Grimard. Be it resolved that bylaw 118-154 be adopted by council, being a bylaw to back charge fees for the water looping project and to establish financing conditions. Seconded by Councillor Simard. When we attended information session involving those residents that will be impacted, this session being attended here at the arena, we mentioned ratepayers that it would cost $5,538 to ensure connection this year. This is the price that we charge everyone that builds a house and would wish to connect to the water system. Now, we're talking about increasing that amount by some $150 within the confines of this particular project. And I find that a bit difficult to swallow, because when you say to someone, look, we're going to hand you an asset that's going to cost you so much, and once the project is over and done with, well, we'll raise the cost of that asset by some $150. And then we say to people it's going to cost you approximately 3.2% if you choose to finance this over a 20-year period. And then we'll tell them, well, we'll offset this over a 5-year period and we'll adjust it. We say something to the resident at one time. Well, these were estimates. At one point in time, they specified that these were estimates. These were not estimates, no. This was the cost that was
c'est le coût
pegged
en
in
2018 pour
2018
connecter,
for
c'est
connection
5538. Là, c'est plus
at
5538
538, and it's not 538 anymore. From what I understood reading the report, instead of charging normally when we offer water in one particular section, people pay owing to the fact that the water system goes by in front of the house. Now they're paying a certain amount for that, and over and above that, people are needed to pay that 5,000 some odd dollars to connect. And because the municipality initiated the project, they needed this to conduct proper operations for the water system. They won't be charged the frontage amount, so they'll be saving a lot of money. People will save on a regular basis $5 or on dollars. All they have to pay is those connection fees. But the fact remains that if you're saying to an individual you're going to pay so much, and then you revisit that individual and say it's going to cost you. If I say to André it's going to cost you $5,538, I expect to obtain an invoice of $5,538. Mr. Desnoyers. Well, that's just an estimate, but we were not talking about a 5-year increment. We said to these individuals, that's approximately what we're going to give you. People understood that for that 20-year duration or period, it was going to be the estimate with regard to the rate we're going to obtain from the bank. Well, definitely we're recommending a 5-year term so that the debt would be renewed after 5 years. That would be to reduce the municipality's exposure if ever the percentage would change. Now, if the municipality would have sought outside financing, the same thing would have applied. It's a recommendation to mitigate the risk incurred by the municipality, considering the 3.2% as opposed to the 3.6%. When we take a look at the prime rate, the preferential rate that is charged back on as of the 18th of January, it was at 3.25%. We had 2 increases during the course of the year, and as of today, it's now at 3.95%. It's an increase of 0.5%, really. So, cost-wise, I believe that the cost that you alluded to that appeared on the slide during the course of the presentation was that we were relying upon, but during the course of the presentation, we had talked about bylaw, about the bylaw and additional connection fees, and orally we stated that there would have been an $80 to $100 difference involved. Now, even then, we're talking about a $60 to $80 difference. And if we invoice the actual cost back to ratepayers, from a contractor's standpoint, it would cost even more. I understand what you're saying, but that's not what we explained to residents. That's what my bone of contention is. I know that we're only talking about $148. Well, I attended that meeting, and I remember that they proceeded with adjustment, and they had stated that they had not come up with final amounts. That's the point that I wanted to bring to your attention. There's still a sizable savings. The fact that they don't have to resort to connection costs, which is enormous as costs go, and I don't think citizens will complain because of this difference. There are 2 connections, 200 millimeters. They'll pay this cash? Yes. Mr. Lalonde, when we talk to connections, and we talk to residents about those, we're dealing with a typical connection of a 19 millimeter connection to individual households. Other scenarios we didn't get into, of course. We talked about actual costs. Well, I'm not talking about 19 millimeters, where I'm talking about the 200 millimeter connections. These people would be called upon to pay cash for that to be done. There's one pegged at $31,923 and the other one at a lesser amount. Yes, people prefer paying those at once and not being taxed over a 20-year period.
Alors,
This was offered? Yes, it was mentioned at that time. Wasn't there a percentage,
oui, ça avait
specific
été
percentage that
mentionné.
was
Ah,
mentioned?
un certain-
Well,
Mais
the
c'était du pourcentage,
cost
le pourcentage?
is $443,000. In the report I allude to $321,000. That's approximately what we finance, and that's what the resident feedback would have been concerning financing. So everyone
Vous avez eu les réponses de
had
tout le
his
monde?
or her say concerning this. Fine then.
Okay.
Any other
Alors,
questions? All those in
est-ce
favor?
que- D'autres questions?
Please, thank you then.
Non? En faveur? OK, merci.
Let's go on now to the next item,
OK,
bylaws
les règlements municipaux.
to be dealt with. Let's start on with item
On
12.1.
commence
Councillor
avec
Zant.
12.1.
Those
Est-ce
are.
que Monsieur Zan, vous voulez-
Are we done with the consent items? Yes, and those are
C'est pas-
bylaws
c'est pas écrit, ouais.
that are enacted by
Ça
consent.
a pas été mis dans les-
Well, usually, okay, so let's go on.
Okay,
Usually
mais
this
là-dessus,
is
il me semble que c'était
reflected
écrit
in the
tout le temps.
bylaw
Okay.
or in the
alors,
agenda.
est-ce qu'elle-
Let's go on then to
Oui, c'est ça, c'est
bylaws.
parce que quand je le vois sur les
Are there any bylaws that you'd
OK,
like to
alors,
withdraw for
est-ce
further
que
consideration?
vous
One
il y a un
deals
des
with
deux
lifting
règlements
of
que
part
vous
lot
avez fait
control
sortir. Il y en a un qui est pour la levée de la
on
réglementation de la
Dr.
partie
Corbet
d'eau,
Boulevard, and the other
sur
one
le
is lifting
boulevard
of part lot
Corbeil,
control
puis
with
l'autre,
regards
c'est
to
pour,
Space
la
Builders
réglementation
Solara.
de partie de l'eau,
Are
c'est pour
there
Space Builders Solara.
any one of the two that
Alors,
would
est-ce qu'il y
be
en a un
lifted?
qui-
Be it resolved that the following
Non.
municipal
OK,
bylaws
alors,
be
Monsieur
adopted.
Zan, vous l'avez?
2018-150, lifting of part lot control, dealing with 1148, 1164 Dr. Corbet Boulevard properties, and bylaw 2018-152, lifting of part lot control, Space Builders, Solara. Seconded by Councillor Lalonde. Any questions? None? Fine.
Monsieur secondé par Monsieur Lalonde.
Great.
Des questions? Non?
Carried then. Let's
En
go on now
faveur?
to item 13, confirmatory bylaw. Be it
Adopté.
resolved that bylaw
Alors, le règlement de
2018-155 be deemed the confirmatory bylaw for the regular meeting of Town Council held on the 19th of November 2018. Seconded by Councillor Simard. All those in favor?
Madame Simard?
Carried then. Adjournment called at
Le journal.
7:41
À
p.m.
7h40? 7h41.
Thank you then. So we'll take a small break. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Alors,
Thank
on va
you.
prendre une petite pause. On va prendre 5